All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are going to start. There may be some people who join us as we go or not. We'll just see what happens. But a very big welcome to those of you who are here live tonight to this Body Image Power Up for uni students. And I'm so delighted to be presenting this workshop to uni students. It is what I desperately wanted when I was a uni student, but couldn't find this information anywhere. And I have had many clients say to me, can you please make this information available to uni students because they have waited such a long time in their life to find this information out. So, to introduce myself, for those of you who don't know me, kia ora, my name's Emma Wright. I am an author. I have written a book called Body Confident, which is currently in the bookstores around New Zealand. I regularly speak at schools to help parents raise body confident kids, and I am a body image non-diet intuitive eating coach, which means I work one-on-one with people to help restore their relationship with food and their relationship with body back to what it was when we're born. We're born being free to trust our bodies intimately and feel good in them. And it is possible to get back there if we have lost that. And so many women have lost that. And today we're going to go through some of the reasons how that happens. And it's my intention to blow your mind a little bit with this workshop, because how that happens is a story that's often missed when we're thinking about how to feel better in our bodies and how to bring trust to what we eat. And in understanding that background, it opens up a whole new world for us. So, the workshop tonight is in 3 parts. The first part is a little bit academic, but it's quick. We're going to go through a history of bodies from a feminist perspective to give you an understanding of, oh, this is how we got here into 2024 with bodies feeling the way we do in our bodies. So we're doing a cultural history of bodies. Part 2 is we're going to look at your personal history, and this is where the workshop gets practical. I am going to ask you some questions to help you look at your personal history of bodies and where the way you feel about your body has really started to be created, and some of the pivotal moments that have created the relationship you have at the moment. And number 3, we're going to go through a body image assessment, a personal body image assessment. You do this on your own. You don't have to share it with anyone, to give you an understanding of exactly what your relationship with your body is actually like. And once we know where we actually are, that gives us huge ability to then move forward. It's like putting ourselves on a map. It's like, if you know where you want to go, that's one thing. But if you don't actually know where you're starting from, it's very hard to find directions. Right. We're going to start with section 1, a history of bodies from a feminist perspective. So, human beings have only been engaged in trying to shrink and change our body shape and size for the last 150 years. Prior to that, the tens of millions of years human beings have existed, there has been no discussion, conversation, attempt to change body size. It is an incredibly new phenomenon. So, what happened from a feminist perspective 150 years ago, where we suddenly started to get really concerned with our body size and decided that we start to focus a lot of attention on changing and fixing the shape and size of our bodies? 150 years ago, if we look back in history, when there was no conversation about people changing the size of their body, women, by and large, were a belonging of their husbands. Women didn't have any rights in society like they have today. They couldn't vote, they couldn't earn money, they couldn't own land, and they couldn't be educated. So we had very, very limited access to power in our lives. And our body size and shape was not something that was seen as something we could fix or change. Prior to 150 years ago, if we look at from an art history point of view, for thousands of years, huge, big, enormous women were the ones that were held up as the ideal beauty. If you look at the carvings that were made, the paintings that were done, it was the woman with great big voluptuous boobs and enormous hips and great big wobbly bums and thighs that run together and dangly arms and big chins. And these were the ideal beauty held up in art because they represented represented fertility and more likely to be in good health and survive to longevity, which was very desirable in women in those days. So that obviously changed significantly 150 years ago when women's access to power started to change. It was about then that we started to get very slowly, we started to get access to education. Education institutions started to open their doors to us. We started to be able to own property in different ways. And then in 1920s, women got the vote. So we suddenly could earn money for ourselves, get access to education, and we had a lot more power in society. Between 1920 and 1940, women's access to power increased hugely, massively. We could make decisions about our what we wanted to do with our lives in ways we had never been able to before. In that time between the 1920s, when women started to get the vote around the world, and in the 1940s, where there was the World War and women started to run corporations and run countries while men were off fighting, after the 1940s, a huge focus culturally on women's bodies started to become present in society. If you look back in magazines and newspapers and cultural conversation, the attention was huge. Attention on women was about, with this newfound power, you can make sure that you bring your body into a respectable looking vessel. So the beauty ideal started to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and the diet industry started to increase its pressure on, if you are a woman in our society who wants to be respected and who wants to be seen as a valuable person, you must have a body that looks a certain way. And that conversation got stronger and stronger, and we can see that in articles and books, and movies and magazines throughout the 1940s through up to the 80s, that got more and more intense as women got more and more access to power. So you can start to see that women keeping their bodies at small and managed is about controlling women's attention and creativity and energy and power by putting it towards themselves rather than using it out in society. In addition to that, from the 1980s, we started to see the effects of the Jane Fonda kind of movement come in to the mix. So she added health to the conversation. So not only was women's ideal beauty simply about thinness, it became about health. And there was a cultural conversation that women were very expected to keep themselves as healthy as they could, and health and thinness started to become perfectly correlated. We started to talk about health as thinness or thinness as health, and that started in the 1980s with Jane Fonda and just got bigger and bigger. That conversation got more and more intense till we get into today's culture, where in 2024 we've got a $1.5 trillion health and wellness industry, which is underpinned by the idea that women's attention should be focused on their bodies to keep themselves the ideal shape and size, which includes looking healthy. So, as we can see, looking healthy and looking thin is very much a cultural conversation of keeping women focused in on themselves rather than using their newfound power and newfound ability to make decisions for themselves, focused in on themselves rather than focused in out at the world and claiming that power to do other things. So that is a very, very quick history of women's bodies, starting with the very new in our history idea that we can change our bodies if we want to. The idea that we can use all our energy and attention and power focused in on ourselves rather than out there in the world. So that concludes the first section of tonight's workshop, looking at that history of bodies. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get our pens and paper out, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions to help you establish where does your personal history fit into the overarching history of women's bodies. And we're going to start by thinking back to your own personal childhood. Excuse me. So think back to when you first, and make a note, when you first heard your parents talk about bodies and food, when it first became part of your awareness within your home environment. Make a note of the age you were, and also make a note of the age your parents were. Understanding that your parents have come up in this culture where it was very much expected that women focus their attention on their body as a way to demonstrate their value and place in society. Thinking about your parents, make a note, parents or caregivers, make a note of what their relationship with their body and food was like. Write down whether your parents had a focus on changing their body in any way. And if they did, how, what was that focus? And also make a note of why do you think they were trying to change it? What was it they were trying to get out of changing their body? Write down anything you can remember your parents, in particular your mother, but either of your parents or caregivers. What did they say about beauty, looks, or appearance? How important was it in your family? And what did they say specifically to you about it? Make a note of how much time and effort went into your mother's appearance. or female caregivers' appearance. Write down whether your appearance was approved of. What specifically was said to you? If you had siblings, was your siblings' appearance approved of? What was said to them? Note whether your parents approved of other people's appearance and whether there were specific people whose appearance they did not approve of, and what was said about them. And then think back to your teens. If you're still in your teens, think to your early teens. If you're in your 20s, think back to the whole of your teens. How did your friends relate to their bodies and food? What importance in your friend groups was placed on appearance? What attitudes did your school have about how you looked or about appearance in general? Make a note of whether you ever got teased about how you looked. Make a note of the impact that had on you. And because this is your own private notes, also make a note of, were you ever part of a group that teased others for how they looked? What were the attitudes of the people around you about people making fun of others about how they look, their body size, or their body shape? If you'd like any of these questions repeated, you're very welcome to either put it in the chat or unmute your computer and ask me to repeat the question. Very welcome to chime in. Looking back over your life, have you ever tried to lose weight? Have you ever been on a diet? Or if not specifically a diet, have you ever tried to intentionally lose weight, whether it's through a lifestyle change, a specific diet, a regime? And be really honest with yourself. Is there anything you've done in the name of health and well-being that you're not really saying you're trying to lose weight, but underneath it, one of the main desires you have from doing that is to lose weight? And if you have done that, maybe it's go on the gym or enter a particular activity or change the way you eat in some way with that desire to intentionally lose some weight, some kind of lifestyle change, for example. If you have tried, how many times have you tried? Was it the once? Was it 3 times? Make a short timeline for yourself. Is it every other week you try something different? Make a short timeline for yourself, just jotting down when those times were, what you did, and what happened. What happened when you did those things? And what did people say to you if they noticed it working? Make a note of what people said to you when they noticed it working, and make a note of how did that feel? Who was it that said those things? Was it only people who knew you very well? Were people who you didn't know very well, did they make comments on how you looked or what they thought or their opinion about it? Just make a note of who it was and what happened. And now I'm going to ask you some questions about your current circle of influence. What kind of media do you consume that is focused on appearance and health and well-being? Are there influences? You can jot down whether or not the specific influences, get as detailed or as broad as you like. It may be that you like to watch certain channels on YouTube or certain influences on social media or Netflix documentaries or books or magazines. But what kind of media do you turn to get that has a an appearance that combines health and well-being and appearance? And does that media combine health and well-being and appearance? Is the media suggesting, do you consume media that suggests if you pay a particular attention to a certain aspect of your well-being, for example, exercise, if you engage in physical activity and movement, Is there an assumption that a certain look will arrive from that? So that's really two questions. What media are you looking at, and what is the messages that they're telling you? And in your current circle of friends, how important is their focus on health and well-being and fitness and body size? For your own notes, you may want to make notes about certain people. You may want to jot down what your kind of friend group in general think. You may want to jot down where the attitudes of your work colleagues, if you have a job, the attitudes that you come across at the health centre. Think about your current circle of influence and what's going on in that current circle of influence in terms of connecting health and well-being and your appearance. And now I'm going to ask a slightly different kind of question. In the history we looked at, in the feminist history we looked at, which looked at a power structure changing, how patriarchy, where men inherently get inherent access to power as a privilege that they didn't earn, they just get by the privilege of being born a man, and how women don't have the same access to power as a privilege. We have to earn it in a different sort of way, and how one of the ways we are expected to earn the privileges we have is to look correctly. In that way, if you look at that history from that perspective, our bodies are for other people to judge us by. Our bodies are the container which other people can look at us and go, yes, you are worthy of my attention. Yes, you are worthy of getting that job. Yes, you are worthy of being considered valuable in our society. And if we don't meet that beauty ideal, if we don't look the way we're expected to look and put all our time and effort and attention into looking, we are considered less than someone else who does look correct. We are considered lazy compared to someone who looks correct. We are considered inferior, morally inferior. And it's looking at our body that gives people the opinion of us in that way. From that perspective, our body belongs to other people. Our body literally belongs to them to judge us by. So here is the question I am going to ask you now. Is your body really for that? And if not, what is your body for? Does your body exist for other people to assess and value you through? And if not, what is it? What does it exist for? This is a question that we very rarely get asked. And because this is a workshop and we don't have time to one on one tease that out with each other in a conversation, Consider that your body, and feel free to write this down, that your body is for you to experience life in. Consider that your body does not belong to other people. You cannot control whether they judge you or not, of course, but you can start to inhabit your body in its truth, that it belongs to you so that you get to be alive. We cannot experience life in any way at all without our bodies. We can't think, we can't feel, we can't eat, we can't feel joy, we can't do anything without our body giving us the ability to have that experience. In the work I do with women, it could be described as changing our relationship with our body from one where we feel judged by other people and give it to other people to judge us by, to living in our body with the respect we feel for it of simply giving us life. Very, very simple, but also very challenging to make that shift. Here are a few more questions before we get on to the third part of today's workshop. Write down what your body tells other people about you. What do you think other people think about you from what they see on the outside? What does your body tell other people about you as a friend, as a student, as a partner or potential partner? What does your body tell other people about your health? And then here's a question that you can write down if you have an answer, and one I really invite you to consider over the next few days. I will send you some emails following this workshop that will help you deepen your ability to answer these questions. And that question is, how would you like to feel about your body? If your body is for you to experience life in, what is it you would like to feel about the body that you experience life in? And with that question, we're going to move on to the third section of today's workshop, which is to do a body image assessment. And this will help you answer that last question, because a body image assessment will tell you how you currently feel about your body. It will give you a really good starting point from where you are now to where you would like to be. So I am going to ask a series of quite quick fire questions, 20 questions to be exact, and I want you to write down 1 to 20, and next to the 1 to 20, answer yes or no. These are not yes or no questions. So be prepared to answer mainly yes or mainly no. There's no right or wrong answers. You can't get this right or wrong, but it's for your own information. Is this a mainly yes or a mainly no question? This is a body image assessment that it was developed by a man called Thomas F. Cash as a PhD. And then it was developed further by a clinical nutritionist called Stephanie Dodier, a Canadian clinical nutritionist, who just tweaked it to be really specific to female bodies. So let's get into it. Yes or no? Question number 1. I am mostly satisfied with my overall appearance. Number 2, yes or no? I have frequent, reoccurring negative thoughts about my body image or appearance. Number 3, yes or no? I think it's unfair that I look the way I look. 4, I worry about what other people think about how I look. 5, I have to work hard to look good. 6, there are things I can't do or won't allow myself to do because of the way I look. Number 7, how I feel about my body affects my interpersonal relationships like intimacy, partner, meeting new people, etc. Number 8, my body image impacts my confidence or self-worth. Number 9, certain aspects of my life are on hold until I look a certain way. Talking to people, taking pictures, buying clothes, etc. Number 10, I seek reassurance about my looks from other people. Number 11, I experience negative emotions when I look at myself in the mirror. Number 12, when something makes me feel good or bad about my looks, I tend to dwell on it. Number 13, I fantasize about looking different. 14, I make efforts to control how other people see my body. Number 15, I use the scale to determine how I feel about my body. Number 16, when I see good-looking people, I wonder about how my looks measure up. Number 17, if I dislike how I look on a given day, it's hard to feel happy about other things. Number 18, my physical appearance has a big influence on my life. Number 19, by controlling my appearance, I can control or hope to control many of the emotional and social events in my life. 20, the way I feel about my appearance affects the basic feelings I have about myself, feelings of adequacy and worthiness. So go back and count up the number of no's that you wrote down. From 0 to 4 no's is considered a violent body image. If you have 4 or less no's, that is considered that you are willing to harm yourself in the desire to make your body feel more comfortable to be in. 5 to 8 no's is considered a negative body image. You're not prepared to harm yourself, but it is having a significant effect on your life. 9 to 12 no's is a conflicted body image. So it's not deeply negative, but it still has a big impact on your life, and it feels like a lot of tension internally and conflict internally going on about how you look and how you feel in your body. 13 to 15 no's is what we would consider a neutral body image. You're neither here nor there. It's just your body is just your body. You don't really think about it that much. And then 16 to 20 no's is what we consider a liberated body image. It's at the point where your body image is so healed, you inspire others to feel good about your body image. Have a look at where you are on that body image scale and ask yourself, is this where I want to be? And I am truly giving you permission to stay there if you want to. It's not good or bad to have any of these. Let me say that again. It is entirely valid to live with your body image like this, and it really is up to you whether it's something that you would like to change or not. If you would like to change your body image and you would like some information about how I work with people, and you can go to my website, which is emmawright.co.nz, which you will find in the emails that I send you. There is more information on there about how I work one-on-one and some of my other free workshops where we go into more depth with tools and strategies. You will find all of that in the emails I send you, and you're very welcome to reply to any of those emails and get your answers, your questions answered. That brings us to the conclusion of my talking in this workshop. You're very welcome to put your video on, to get your video off and put your microphone on and ask questions if you have any questions that have arisen for you during this workshop. So I am throwing the floor open to anyone who has a question. You're also very welcome to put it in the chat if the chat function works for you, if you'd rather not speak out in public. Any questions? Anything I can clarify or say again in a different way about any of the content, either about the history or the personal history or the body image assessment? And if no one has questions, I will close tonight's session. You are very, very welcome to email me. As I said, look out for those emails that follow on from tonight's workshop, that support what you have learnt tonight and take it a bit deeper. From there, you're very welcome to reach out to me, and from there, it also will tell you more about the one-on-one work I do with people if your body image is in a place where you'd really like it to move up that body image scale. Thank you so much for prioritising your health and well-being and your mental health around how you feel about your body image. And I really look forward to meeting you again, either in another workshop or through the email or at another time. Take care, and I will now officially close this evening's workshop. Bye.